Oh, I love seeing all these heads bopping along in the Wrecking Crew panel chat as we get to hear that tune from Peter Trulin. You know you're in for a treat when you hear that music because it's time for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Reid, Blusterini in the home game and at Rec Poker Jim on the hellscape we call Twitter. And I have the best freaking job in the world talking poker with my friends here on the Strategy Forums edition of the podcast every Monday night while we steal each other chips in the free nightly home game. Now, I should mention we're brought to you by Running Aces, the official sponsor of the Rec Poker Podcast. They're located less than an hour north of the Twin Cities in the beautiful state of Minnesota. You can find out more about them at runaces.com. Most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization, so we really depend on support from our sponsors and from our premium members who take part in our training material and study opportunities for only $22 a month. Now, you can always sign up for free. We have so many fantastic free resources here in our Rec Poker community. All it takes to join is an email address and a smile, although we do insist on both. But you can always get your first month of Rec Poker premium membership for $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. And if $22 a month feels like a lot for you, I trust me, the value is there. We have a bunch of amazing content and study opportunities worth well more than $22. But if $22 is a lot, and if even $5 is going to move the needle for you on a monthly basis, I just want to remind you that you can support your local food bank by making a donation of any amount. And if you email us the proof of that donation, we'll give you a free month of premium membership at Rec Poker as a way to say thanks for supporting your local food bank. So there's lots of ways to get involved here for free or for spending as little as $1. Now, they let me host the show on Mondays, but I'm just one man, and it takes a group, a gang, a crew to make all the magic happen here at Rec Poker. We call this group of wizards the Wrecking Crew. And if you want to learn more about me or the rest of the crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew, or you can just listen up. You're going to meet a few of them right here tonight on the air.
I'm Kim Kilroy. I'm PetThat33 on social platforms, Fergie56 in the home game. And I run a hand history review group on the second Wednesday of the month when I'm in town. And we're going to do one of those hand history reviews tonight, I hope.
All right.
Hi, I'm Marcus Zhang, and once a month, the first Thursday of the month, I'm having office hours where we talk about hands in tournaments.
And I'm Rob Washam. You can find me as Rabman50 just about everywhere. And on the first and third Wednesdays of every month, I host a book study group. Come and join us as we talk about the best poker books in the world.
That's right. So as you can see, just a few Wrecking Crew members here in the booth tonight. Everyone has their own kind of area of strength, their own area of contribution to the poker world and to our premium membership here at Rec Poker. I happen to think that the three we've got tonight they offer some fantastic value. Rob's book study is probably our longest running premium membership offering. Kim's hand history review has been going on for quite a while now. And she takes her experience as a serious, thoughtful, successful recreational player traveling around the world and breaking people's hearts on the felt by busting them hand after hand and just climbing the Hendon Mob rankings, and brings that right into our own hand reviews. And Mark Zhang, who's a very successful tournament pro, loves to just share his nuggets of knowledge with our premium members in his office hours each month. I think it might be the highest value minute per minute of a lot of our study groups here, Mark. I'm always so impressed at how you cut right to the crux of what is important about the hand. What are the important factors? What are the ways that players tend to screw up spots like this? And I always learn something when I'm in Mark's office hours. So I hope folks, if you're on the fence, come check us out. Like I said at the top, get an account for free, but get that first month for $5 and dip a toe in. I think you're going to find some very valuable resources for recreational poker players. Now, Kim, you're talking about a hand tonight that you played in the World Series of Poker in a bracelet event. Speaking of having a great life, traveling the world. So fill us in a little bit on this one. Yeah,
it was in the Super-Seniors.
Oh, the what? No way. It was in the redacted WSOP bracelet event in June of 2024. All right, got it.
So this is day 2 of the Super Seniors. It's a 1K event. we had well over 3,000 runners in this event. We're in day 2 and we've already passed the bubble and we're into the money. But we're not yet far enough into the money where the pay jumps are significant. We've got long, like 50 players making the same amount of money, and then it jumps up $100 or something. So it's really, really nominal right now. So in my opinion, there's not a lot of ICM pressure right now. I went into day 2 in one of the top 100 in chip stacks, and I built it over the bubble so that I've almost doubled what I went in with. I have about 280,000 at 2,000, 4,000 blinds. I think that's about 70 big blinds, something like that. I'm going to talk about the second hand. The first hand is just a quick cooler, but it may have been affecting the way I thought about the next hand. So I raise with pocket tens. There's 2 callers. The big blind shoves 20 big blinds. I reshove because everybody's has a lot less than I have. Everyone folds. Big blind has 8s. I have pocket tens, hits the 8 on the flop. Blah, blah, blah. I lose 20 big blinds. So now I'm down to about 50 big blinds. So I take that hit, but I'm still one of the chip leaders on the table when this hand comes up. So I am in, and it's not very long after that this hand comes up. So I'm in middle position. I raise to, I have ace 10 offsuit. I raise to 8K. I get called by the button and the big blind. So I get 2 callers. So there's about 30K in the pot right now. The flop comes 10 of spades, 9 of spades, 3 of hearts. The big blind checks. I think I bet about, I can't remember exactly because I'm really bad and I tell people they shouldn't do this. I didn't write the hand down.
Shame on you, Kim. Yeah,
I know,
right.
really bad.
It happens to the best of us.
I think I bet about 10K. I bet about a third pot, I think. And the button shoves, overbet shoves for 92,000, which I think is about 23 big blinds or something. And she had been fairly active making these big overbet shoves, saying she needed to double up or go out because she wanted to get into the Poker News championship, and it was nearing the end of the late registration period. So she'd been quite verbal about it. The big blind folds, and I'm sitting there with top pair, top kicker with draws on the board and trying to decide whether to call off this enormous part of my stack. If I win this hand, I'm winning 300 and something thousand. I'm like well dominating the table. I can really run over the table. I feel I have I feel I have a skill edge on most of the players that were at the table at this time. If I don't take it, then I still have 40 something big blinds. So I still have a reasonable stack, but now I'm there's other people with around the same stack sizes too. So I thought for a long time about it. And then I just decided there's not a lot of ICM pressure now. I think that this person is probably on a draw. I'm going to call here. So I call, and sure enough, they flip over king 4 of spades.
Okay.
So they have 1 over, and the flush draw and the spade comes on the river.
Right.
And I go down to 20 big blinds. So it's really not like I'm not trying to tell a bad beat story or anything, but I really want opinion on whether this is a spot that I should be taking at this point. Whether I should be, am I saying that, pay jumps aren't big, so I'm taking the spot to try and get a commanding stack so I can run to final table with it? Or am I just making excuses for a call that I shouldn't have made? Because we're really probably flipping, and I may even be behind if they have a flush draw and a straight draw and 2 overs. I don't know. There's all kinds of things they could they could have there.
Yeah,
I
they've got like
didn't feel like there was any chance that they were on a set
right.
or something that was already made, just from the way they played and the fact that this was like an overbet on the pot. So any I mean, I
Yeah.
hung in for a little longer, but then I went out and I never made the big deep run that I wanted to make. So I just want to take about like, do you take those spots? I mean, should those be spots you're taking? Should I be considering my future skill edge and turning down these spots? I know in our last forums discussion, we were talking about maybe turning down some spots, marginal spots where when we think we have a skill edge over the field.
Yeah, I'm always kind of torn on that because you also there's that kind of at war with the concept of future game simulation where you're like, if I do get a big stack here and I'm the kind of player that knows how to use it, then that's actually also, valuable for me. I think you have to be like further along in the tournament for that to be more valuable. But I'm curious what Mark and Rob have to think about this. I've got a couple questions of my own, but without further information, Mark or Rob, what would you do in Kim's spot here, or what else would you want to know, or what else might influence your decision about whether to call or not to call? Let's just isolate it down to that spot. Everything's played as it is. We made the C bet, and we're facing this shove from the button.
Okay, I can
Rob,
start.
or Mark? Yeah, I'll jump in, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, so speaking of like that last session we were talking about skipping edges, that's a typical spot where I just hate the spot because I don't want to flip. Like it was like 23 big blinds-ish. I can do so much more with 20-ish big blinds, like because I know in which nodes they are overfolding, and in which nodes they are overcalling. So I could do so much more with it, right? With less variance. The second thing that I was thinking of, and I'm not sure that if recreational player actually know the answer, is when we bet and button shoves, how much equity do we have against that range? Like, what's the guess?
So if we had to assign a range to that player,
it sounds a range. Go ahead.
It sounds like it's going to be a lot based on Kim's breakdown.
I was guessing it was going to be 50-50, to be honest.
Equity,
like around there, and did I want to take that? But I mean, I could be way wrong in that.
So here's my what I'm thinking. So she could have king 10, okay? Like she could have even queen 10, maybe. Like let's say the best case she has queen 10, which is like the bottom of her value hands, and then she has some king 10s, she has some ace 10s, then she might as well have some jacks if she doesn't 3-bet it pre-flop. Maybe she has like 50% of the time jacks. And then she has some queen jacks, king jacks, and then she has some king 4s with the flush draws and ace 4s, ace 5s. I think that's a pretty accurate range. Plus, like, maybe she has some flop 2 pairs. You said she wouldn't have sets. Sure, why not? Let's just remove half of the set combo she might have, and because you even block top set, and I don't think she would shove top set. I mean, some people do. People do weird stuff all the time. So against that range,
I had seen her shove draws already, and that was her sort of MO. That she played value differently than she shoved played draws.
So you would bet everything you have that you would never play top 2 like that. Like you would hold your hand in the fire for that. Like you're so sure.
Like 10-9.
Might have top 2, but probably there's only 3. Okay. There's only 2 combinations of top 2. So it's.
And she wouldn't play jacks like that, you said. Oh,
No, she would have 3-bet jacks. She was trying to be really
okay.
aggressive when she was in a hand.
I mean, yeah, if we narrow the range down to that, I think we have about 50, 60%, like between 50 and 60% equity. If we take the combos in that we lose to, I think we have like 40 or 35. So I think that's important to assign the actual range, because you're talking about should we take the spot, and the first thing I'm thinking about, how much equity do we have against that range, because it's not going to be ace deuce offsuit.
Right.
So I think that's the first thing that I would think about, and then the second would be like, yeah, how much equity do we have, and do we want to take the spot? I also want to mention that I think, given your assumptions about the player, I probably would have called it sucks, but like once you bet and you get shoved on, your hand is worth too much pot share for me to give it up. Like, you're giving up too much skill edge by giving up the pot. So I think you, like, in my eyes, you played the hand fine. The only thing like that I want to say something about is you misplayed your range on the flop, but you played your hand well.
Yep.
Okay.
Rob, did you have something on that?
I was just gonna say that based on her read of the opponent, I would call this all day long. For one thing, to her point, to Kim's point, if she does win that, she has a huge chip advantage. She should have enough equity, according to what Mark was talking about. And as far as the ranges, the equities, I think, are going to be very close to 50-50. So it has to be a call. Also, knowing that even if you lose this hand, you're still going to be sitting there with 20 some big blinds. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel pretty comfortable in a tournament with 20 big blinds. I think there's still a lot of playability there. And obviously you could get hit by a bad beat, like what happened here. And one of the things that I've always told myself, since I tried to become more realistic about poker, is that, hey, if I knew that was the hand that she had, would I have called? Well, obviously, of course, you're going to do that 100% of the time. So making the evaluation of where her range is, which included mostly draws, according to Kim's read of the player and how she was playing up to that point, then yeah, it's a call all day long. I don't have a problem with it at all. I think Kim thought about the right things throughout throughout her thought process of what types of hands is she going to have here? Is she going to have hands that have me dominated? No, she's going to have hands that have draws to win. Almost any two cards are going to have draws to win against top pair, top kicker, especially when that top pair is a 10. So
Right.
if she has kings, any king, any queen, any jack, any ace, well, not the ace because you have the ace, but any of those other cards are potentially going to win. You didn't have to get the spade. She could have got a king and still won.
Here's the other thing though that I thought about afterwards. If I had won the hand with the tens, and this is one of the reasons I told you about the hand before, I would have had about 100 big blinds or more, over 100 big blinds, and I think I would have easily folded the hand.
Oh, interesting. Because you had a deep enough stack that it was like
Yes.
worth preserving and not taking the flip?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I would have thought in a vacuum, you'd be more inclined to just take it because you'd still have so many chips left over afterwards that it's like less trivial. It's almost more
why
trivially
take those
important.
spots? I still have tons of chips, and I can still bully the table and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Mark and Rob, is there anything about that you want to respond
I just
to?
thought about that afterwards. Like it was
Yeah.
something that went through my mind afterwards that I think I
Mhm.
probably would have folded that if I'd won that other hand before.
Or how much closer do your stacks have to be together before it's so much of your stack that you're considering that you're just going to fold, because you're not going to have 20 bigs afterwards as well. Like the stack depth really matters in that case then. It always does. That's a silly thing to say. So for me, so a couple things that I'm interested in talking about here. First of all, so you had ace 10 offsuit. Do you recall if you had the ace of spades?
Maybe. I might have.
So that removes.
But I think I might have.
That would remove some of the, flush draw combos from our
I felt like it was
opponent's
black,
range.
so
Yeah.
obviously I couldn't have had the 10 of spades.
Right. Yeah. 10 of spades is on the board.
Yeah.
So you could have had, so that, that's one thing to be considering. But honestly, with your read of this opponent, that they play their draws fast and they play their value hands slow, like that really, if I'm in your position and if I believe that read, then I'm also calling here. Like,
right.
In fact, I might even think to myself, this is one of those spots that I've been turning down all these spots for, because this is where I get to express my skill edge, because I can say about this opponent, they're coming in light, they're pushing a lot of equity, but not a lot of showdown value here. That's how they play these hands. And so this is like the spot for me to get it in with a made hand. That, because when we're thinking about like preserving our skill edge for later spots, it's never going to be spots that are 90-10. Like you don't get 90-10 spots, in poker. So the question is just like, how good a spot are you waiting to get into? And if it's when, a bluffy player overbets and they only ever overbets with draws, and I've got that beat, unless they turned over exactly queen jack of spades, like I'd be pretty comfortable getting it in here. I think I make the call as well.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think when someone makes these verbal declarations like, "Oh, I'm just here to double up or go home"? Are they always telling the truth? Like I don't see that as it's not clear to me that that's actually their game plan. But
yeah, but she was continuously looking at her phone and texting her friends how much time she had left to register, and like letting the table know how long there was to register for the tournament. And
so that's a lot of work for a facade, I guess, is what you're saying.
I agree there. I think there are times where somebody will say, well, I guess it's my turn to go home, and they go all in and they turn over aces, right?
Yes. Yes.
But in this case, it sounds like the opponent was continually doing this, not just for that hand, but she had been doing it over and over to the point where it was very obvious that she wanted to either make a ton of chips or go enter this other tournament.
I can tell you she made a ton of chips. When I busted, she had a masses our table broke shortly after that. And when I left the tournament, when I busted, she had a massive chip stack. So she didn't get to play in the Poker News Cup.
I guess not. Well, it was little did she know she was basically drawing dead, because I think Mark wasn't it the Poker News? You took 6th or 5th place or something like that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if you hadn't got your freaking kings cracked like on that earlier table, man, you would have had such a chip lead. I'm sorry, I shouldn't even bring it up. It's a sensitive subject.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
And, I probably would have had a bracelet by now.
Yeah. That was still phenomenal finish. Way to make a final table of a bracelet
really
event,
good.
Mark. That's amazing.
Really good.
Very cool. Very cool.
I have another quick thing about the Super Seniors tournament. A fun hand that I played. Just quickly we'll do, because I know we're running long here.
Yeah.
But this is on day 1, and I'm running really, really well. Like I'm running well. Like I've had aces to kings twice.
Oh, that's awesome. Amazing.
and held both times.
You played it great.
You played it great.
I played it great. I've got one of the biggest chip stacks on the table. The guy to my immediate left is a chatterbox, and he's totally on happy tilt. He's just tripled up twice, and he has me just covered now. So we have like probably 80 to 90 big blinds a piece. Like we have tons of chips. We probably have as much as the rest of the table put together between the two of us. So this is in this hand, it folds to me in the small blind, and I look down and I have pocket tens. And I say, I know this guy's on happy tilt. I'm going to flat, and when he raises me, I'm going to re-raise him. So I did. I called, and he raised, and I re-raised him, and he immediately just goes all in.
Oh God. Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm like, seriously, dude, do you know how many big blinds you have now? You don't have 30 anymore. You don't have 25 anymore. You have like almost 100 big blinds now. So I fold my tens face up, and he flips over and he goes, oh, wow. He shows me ace king offsuit, right?
Right.
But it's just like, I mean, we could have taken a flip there for a 200 big blind pot. I never would with pocket tens, but I'm just like, he didn't even stop and think about what I could be making that play with. And he saw that I was a good player at the table. Like he knew that, and it was just an interesting hand and an interesting dynamic there.
In that exact spot, what's the worst hand that you are calling with against a player? Because like part of why you targeted him for this play was this happy tilt, and that he's going to be he's not going to be very.
He's going to go all in. I thought. I just thought he was going to raise me for sure with almost anything if I limp.
Right.
I just thought he was just going to raise with anything.
Yeah.
So.
And that re-raising range is obviously a lot stronger. Have you thought about what would be the worst hands that you would call with in that spot? Or
I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, I'm like, I don't know.
No, you don't have to know right now.
Maybe
Rob,
aces.
Maybe aces. Yeah.
Aces and
Rob,
kings, maybe. Maybe
Mark,
aces and kings.
Kings are a definite maybe. It's like I don't want to. Like honestly, we had so many chips between the two of us. There was no reason to do something so stupid like that at that point in the tournament.
He's never doing it with worse than two overs, right? Like he's just never doing it. Towards the end of
day one, and this is towards the end of day one.
So he's not doing it with like pocket nines. He's not doing it with like ace nine of hearts. Like you're always up against an overpair or two.
He had pretty much what I thought he would have there, or maybe jacks. He might have done it with jacks because I limped, right? And he just thinks that he's going to blow me off. He said, "Whoa, I never thought you were that strong." Whoa, he was all scared that he almost got into this flip with this beautiful new stack he just dragged in, right? So I don't know whether I think I played it fine. Like I think he definitely overplayed his hand,
right?
Because I could have done that with aces, right?
Oh yeah.
And it was interesting. It was just funny. It was definitely happy tilt. He was on. He goes, I love that. So he's chatting about it. He goes, I love that you call it happy tilt. That's a real thing. That's exactly what I was feeling.
I guess sometimes it's like we set these traps and they spring them on us.
It was an interesting hand. I wasn't willing to take a flip for that much though.
Right. Rob, Mark, do you have what's the worst hand? Are you calling there with any unpaired hands, or what's the worst pair that you're calling with? Rob says,
actually, you know what? It was earlier in the day, I think, because I think we were still at the end of the rebuy period or the re-entry, where you can still have your one re-entry. But we had masses of chips, the two of us.
So it's not the same dynamic as you trying to list like bust so you can go get a full stack. I'm going to put the guys on the spot here a little bit, or you can just pass. But Rob, what's the worst hand you're calling with there?
Kings.
Yeah. Mark, what about you? How low do you go?
I think queens and maybe ace king suited.
Yeah. I was thinking queens in my mind when we were going through it. I mean, if you're putting them on queens, kings, aces, and ace king, queens are kind of functionally the same as some of those like jacks and tens. Like it's you against over pairs and two overs. So you're kind of taking the same odds. So you'd have to think he was like shoving some ace queen or worse.
I really don't think he was actually thinking about how many chips he actually had.
No.
And how many chips I actually had.
Yeah.
When he did it.
Well, that's the thing. Like at the end of day 2 of the main, I was in a spot where I had just tripled up at another table, and I was at a new table with like an hour to go in the night. And I looked down at aces, and I open. I know Mark's like, all this recreational guy sits in the main. He gets pocket aces, pocket kings, trip queens. All he got making hands all over the place. Yeah. This Mark's a much better player. He's struggling, just like, let's try and ring some EV at a jack 9 suited on the button. But no, so I had aces. I opened from early position. A guy across the table 3-bets me. And I'm like, oh, baby, this sounds great. So I 4-bet, and he just shoves. And I don't think he didn't realize how deep we were, because he had stacks. He was like the chip leader at the table. He'd been used to running the table, and I had just shown up. And I guess I had some little baby avocados hiding in the back of a stack there, so he didn't quite appreciate the size of the stack. So he got it in with kings against me, and I held. And all of a sudden now, going into day 4, I've got like a ton of chips here. But he said afterwards, he's like, I didn't know how many chips were at play there. And I think I would have played it differently if I'd like just taken the time to look more closely at the stacks. So that's something that absolutely does happen. And especially when you've won a bunch of hands and like you're used to, like you're playing with weird chips that you weren't playing with before. Like there was a point later in the tournament for me where I'd like made a bunch of hands in the last half hour. And I honestly did not know how many chips were in front of me. It was like, it's like 2 point something million. I don't know.
I'm constantly counting my stack and figuring out how many big blinds I have. I just can't count in all those chips. Like I was in 2 tournaments where there's millions in play, and I'm like, I can't figure this out. I gotta just go in big blinds. I would open my phone and use my calculator and figure out.
Yeah, it's RTA.
Yeah, RTA. That's right. Yeah.
My calculator?
No,
your phone.
That's not RTA. Come on.
Actually, it's funny. The only reason Mark and I are even friends is because we were playing last year in a tournament together, and he brought his own RTA to the table. If memory serves, it was the little hand ranking card that in the deck of cards saying, 3 of a kind beats 2 pair. And we had a conversation about whether that should even be allowed at the table. That kind of sophisticated.
That's good memory. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, I needed that.
Well, see,
right.
That's the problem with being on all these study things. You're just always thinking in big blinds and not.
Yes.
I don't play in chips. I mean, it's so hard to play in chips.
Yeah, especially like I'm used to playing online more, so I have to.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, and so I'll make stacks of like, this is what 10 big blinds is. This is what 20 big blinds is.
That's
with my
a good
chips.
idea. Yeah,
because then just visually I can look at it, and it also helps me size up other players' stacks as well. Like, so if we're in a deeper portion of the tournament, I'll just have 20 big blinds right next to my main stack, and I'm like, I know that's 20 big blinds. And when the blinds go up, I just change the size of the stack, so now it's 20 big blinds at the new blind level, and I never am that disconnected from my total.
That's a good way to do it. I should do that too.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. I mean, I sometimes ask people what their stack is. Then I get my calculator out.
Yeah.
See how many big blinds they have.
Another thing that came up on day 5, we were getting real tense at the table. Like, the pay jumps were getting bigger, and there was a relatively inexperienced player who had come to the table. And he wanted to know how many chips I had in my stack before he made his decision. And so he was like, oh, how many chips do you have? And I like they were all in stacks of 20, and I made sure that he could see all the big chips. And there's my chips. And he's like, no, but count it out. How much is it?
You
And I
don't
was
need
like,
to.
sorry, buddy. These chips are not in the middle right now. They're over here. They're my property. They're displayed. Use your brain and your eyes and count them. And that's how you get this information. If they're in the pot, you can ask for a count. Like if they're in the middle and they're in the middle, now you can ask the dealer to break them out and get a count. But while they're over here, that's on you.
I thought there was a rule change where you could get a count of someone's stack because of people that have difficulty seeing to the end of the table and visual problems. I thought that there was, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. I mean, that makes sense to me, and I would like to be more welcoming of those players. But yeah, it was my understanding at the time. It was just like, it's available.
I don't think you should, like, you're supposed to disclose your stack size. I think if somebody would be the dealer, like, but not you, like you.
No, I mean the dealer would have. Yeah, the dealer would have to say how much it was. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not on you. Like, when you're saying how much you have, you're helping him, right?
Right.
Even
and you might be wrong too. And then what? Right?
Like, I have about 3 million.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Nope, I lied.
Oh, I guess I made a math error. So
yeah.
That part of it's just like protecting yourself. But all that to say, people don't always know what's in their stack or what's in your stack. But even what's in their own stack, people don't always know. And so it's definitely
even beyond that, they don't know why it matters. Right.
No,
Yes.
So a lot of times you see somebody ask how much do you have behind or whatever, and you're thinking, what difference does it make? He's got 5 times as many chips as you. Just look at the size of the stacks. So what is, I don't understand what the question is. So I think there's times where people ask these types of questions and they don't even really know why they're asking the question. They just saw somebody else do it.
Like, I had a spot where somebody who had more chips than me shipped, it was an open race and somebody shipped over the top, and I had less than both, but I wanted to know how many big ones he shipped it for, because I could figure out what his shoving range looked like. And the guy was like, "You have less. What's your point?"
Yeah. So never, underestimate other people's ability to just not have their trip together. It's just something that is definitely a thing, and it's a mistake that we can take advantage of. But it's also the kind of mistake that, like, similarly to people that don't understand ICM very well, their mistake can also be a problem for you. Like, it can also cost you if you make the wrong assumption about it.
But also, like, one thing that I realized or noticed, that people play their hand. Like, there was a spot where I had ace king, I 3-bet, and the flop comes queen jack 10, and I go for a c-bet, and this Asian lady, she just ships 2 pair into me, and it didn't matter to her how many big blinds she had, and we were really deep. It was level 2 or something, but she played it like if she had 20 big blinds, if she had 30 big blinds, like, it doesn't matter to recreationalists how many big blinds they have. It just matters if they have a hand or if they don't have a hand. They don't think about what does your range look like. They just have 2 pair and they have the best hand by what they think, like, by now, because I could have aces. So yeah, that's how they think.
You can't profile all recreationals into one box now.
But generally speaking, we're not as savvy about that kind of stuff. It's true. Yeah. But yeah, we are taking that word back. We're bringing some recreational fire to these tournaments. I think one at a time.
Yes, hopefully.
Hopefully. Good stuff. Kim, anything else on that subject?
We've been running on long enough. Everybody's going to hear that we just chat away.
This is part of the fun here at RecPoker. I mean, we're just a fun group of people to come join and talk poker with. I know when premium members join, I meet all our premium members one-on-one over Zoom to sort of walk them through the organization and sort of help them realize what their leaks are and the ways that we can help them best. And the one thing that new members tell me more than anything else where they join, I ask them, like, why'd you join? And mostly they say, I've got a great friend group. I've got a great support group. I'm happy. I've got lots of people in my life that I love and that love me, but I don't have a lot of people that I can talk to about poker. My friends aren't serious about poker like I am. I post in forums every once in a while, but like, I don't feel like I have people that I can talk to about poker. And like, man, that's what we're all about here at RecPoker. Come and find people like you, maybe even more fun, and talk poker with them and like learn together and help each other get better. So yeah, this is such a great group, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. And these forums editions are just a great way to scratch that itch. I have more fun doing these than I do a lot of other things I do this week. So thank you, Kim. That was a great prompt for us today.
Thanks for your input, guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kim Kilroy, Rob Washam, Mark Zhang, 3 RecPoker Crew members. Again, I'll mention it. If you go to rec.poker/coaching, you can find all sorts of opportunities to work with some of these wizards directly and get even more input and insight from their experienced play over the years. And or just come and join RecPoker for free and get your first month for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. All right. Thank you, Rob, Kim, Mark. Thank you to the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. Thanks to all our premium members, and thanks to you, our listeners. We'll see you next week on the RecPoker podcast. Have a good day, everybody.